To Bitcoin and politics. This is Paul McNeil, the crypto curator. My setup is a little wonky today, but that's okay. I'm gonna make it work. Listen, this show is being brought to you by Roundly X. Roundly X is a phenomenal company that allows you to round up your purchases in Satoshi. So let's just say you buy something for $5.30. They'll round it up to $6. That 70 cents gets stacked in sats. How great is that? So whatever you do, go check out Roundly X and use Bitcoin politics, and they'll give you $4 in Bitcoin. How amazing is that? Okay, let's get on with the show. All right, folks, I got a great show for you today. We're going to be previewing the upcoming midterm elections. As you know, right now, things are in a really weird place as far as Congress goes. We got the Democrats that barely controls the Senate, and then we have the Republicans who control the House. Now, there is a chance that the Democrats could lose the Senate, giving Congress a full red wave. And if that were to happen, that means Joe Biden's not going to get hardly anything done in the next 2 years. On the show today, I have a guest to join me to talk through this stuff, and it is our wonderful friend, Gerald Vata from Quantum Economics. Let's bring Gerald on. Let's start diving into this stuff and talking about what's possible with this next coming midterm election. So I think Nick's going to probably bring Gerald into the room, and if he does, and while he does, let me talk to you about a couple other things. I'm going to be going through a spreadsheet that is my own proprietary spreadsheet to track this election. I'll be looking at 538. I'll be looking at Vox. There's a lot of different places that I'm going to be looking and trying to cover some information. My spreadsheet is a very robust spreadsheet, so some of this will probably make sense. Some of it probably won't. We're going to be looking at the competitive races tab when we talk through this, because a question came up on Twitter. I think this was maybe about a week ago. Someone asked a question. They said, is anyone tracking the competitive races and who's basically Bitcoiners, who's not, things that we should know? And so that's what I'm going to be trying to talk through with some of you today. And again, once we can get Gerald into the room, I'm going to bring him on. So, and one of the things that I'm going to have Nick do as well is on the spreadsheet right now, I think he might have the candidates tab open. I'm going to have him open the competitive races tab at the bottom. That way you guys will be looking through the same information that I am. So here's one of the things that I decided to do, and I did this early on in the election. I decided to track, or at least try to track, every candidate that was running. That got incredibly tricky, right? And for good reason. There was a lot of people running for office, and I was trying to look at every candidate. All of a sudden, I realized, you know what, Paul, let's just wait till the general. You'll have two candidates to look at in each race, the Democrat and the Republicans. Now, one of the things that I decided to do is that I omitted the independents, the libertarians, the Green parties, all these other parties, because statistics show we're in a duopoly, right? It's either going to be Democrats or Republicans. And hey, we finally got Gerald on the screen. Hey, Gerald, how's it going, man?
Good. How you doing, Paul?
Doing great. So on my spreadsheet, the only thing I'll be looking at is two parties, Democrats, Republicans, and trying to get a sense who would possibly win. Now, I believe there's going to be some upsets in some of these races. 538 is a beast of a research organization, and they're probably a lot better than I am because I just go by the seat of my pants. But they have a lot of races, and normally Nick Silver's right when it comes to these elections. Sometimes he's wrong. And so my hope is that maybe I can call one that he doesn't get. Gerald, have you taken a look at Nick Silver at all? Do you pay attention to him much?
In the past elections, I followed 538 because, like you said, they are pretty good prognosticators at calling, congressional and senatorial races. I haven't over the last couple of years or elections, just because I do live in Oregon. We get to, have mail-in ballots for every election. And the other reason is I've been just delving into Bitcoin and crypto more than politics, even though I have a degree in political science and I'm well versed on Robert's Rules of Order and politics in general. My focus is on the big orange coin and other layer one cryptographic monies that I think are scarce, in my opinion, or more scarce
Yeah.
than the dollar.
Yeah, true. And one of the things with these races is I've tried to, and this is a great place to start, is who's really hodling Bitcoin and who's not. And I know that politicians have a differencing of opinion on if they should or if they shouldn't. It's just like stocks. A lot of people hammer Elizabeth Warren on her stock situation, and there are legislation out there about candidates and how they handle trading the markets because they have a lot of influence of what happened. And so if we were to look at this spreadsheet, the ones in green, I have a column called HODL Bitcoin. And this, unfortunately, is not a public resource. I have not put it out there in public because I did a lot of work on this. But if you were to look through this list, we've
That's
got
the one
about
column I took a very close look at.
yeah, exactly. And there's about 3 people right now that hodl Bitcoin, and this has
That
been
was it.
proven on their financial disclosure. Blake
Yep.
Masters, Jay Chen, and at the very end, we've got JD Vance. Now, these are the competitive races. This is not all the people that run for Congress, but these are just the 3. And of those 3, we know somebody that's in a really hot race right now, and that would be JD Vance against Tim Ryan in Ohio. Have you paid any attention to that race, Gerald?
I saw a little bit last week. I guess they were in the debate, and Tim was giving it to JD Vance pretty heavily. I thought he won the debate personally.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. I think Tim Ryan overall is a good guy. I think he's got good intentions, but he was laying it down. He's telling him the truth. Like you get to the federal level of politics, you're in the viper's den, right? You got
Yep.
to play by their rules, and you got to get on that committee, and you sit on that committee for a year or two, and then maybe they'll start to listen to you in those circles. But he's right, it's not easy. It's not an easy job. You just don't walk into Washington and think you're going to do whatever you want to do. Even Donald Trump tried that, and it didn't work, right? Like, it doesn't work. You have to play
Yes.
by the rules. And even though some people liked that attitude of that initiative that Trump seems to have on like a lot of things, he gets that go get 'em attitude. It's not effective, right? Like a lot of people will still want to blame Biden for our economy. It's like, does everyone forget the tariff war that Trump started, and that's what started the last big war we had in the world? And that's literally what we're seeing again right now, and no one wants to point that out. But he's the main reason that we're all struggling right now. It's not Biden. Biden's trying to get us out, even though he's printing just as much money as Trump and as Obama did, and as every other president. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. We have to look towards politicians that understanding the separation of money in state is a really important issue. And that's why I think, this discussion is very important. We discuss about this all the time, that, we have to have that separation also, not just from state, but also, whales, potential, really big wealthy people, and
Mhm.
warlords, right? Because those are the extremes we have without, with the breakdown of society. We go to, either we have rules and order, or we have warlords. And either way, you don't want those parties running your money, because they make one wrong move, and boom, we have Zimbabwe, boom, we have Venezuela, boom, we have the Weimar Republic
Republic.
issue. And
Yeah.
that again that's where we're headed.
Yeah, and with 2 of these candidates in particular, JD Vance and Blake Masters, we know that a lot of the Republican Party and the Republican crypto donors, they pulled back from these guys a little bit because of their views, and they're not getting as much support. They were getting a lot of support. I believe even Peter Thiel wound up pulling some of his support from, I think it was Blake Masters, if
Wow.
I've gotten it right. But I think the 3 people that are in Congress who are hodling Bitcoin right now, there's a chance that each one of them could lose. So that's 3 Bitcoiners that won't make it to Congress. Now, JF Chen is also on that list, but that race was competitive. It's no longer competitive now, according to 538. It looks like his opponent is 80%, has an 80% chance to win, and he has a 20% chance to win. So if he doesn't win, again, out the door goes another Bitcoiner that could possibly make it to Congress. So that's why I'm trying to preview this for you guys. Now, again, as much as some people say one voter issue, will you vote for someone just because they support Bitcoin? What about the rest of the views? And that's been a tricky one. So, Gerald, for which district are you in Oregon? By the way, do you?
Actually,
I
I
don't know
don't
if you know
even
now.
know.
If you don't,
Yeah,
that's
because I
fine.
did just move. I forget the district, but I live in Central
Yep.
Oregon.
Okay. There's two
And
districts in Oregon right now that are competitive. Is District 5 and District 6. McLeod, Skinner, Chavez, Derimer,
yeah,
and
yes, okay, I'm in
Salinas
that
and
district.
Erickson. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
those in both of those, well, one of them is a complete toss up, which is District 5. District 6, it's a 71% chance that Salinas is going to win over Erickson. And again, 538 could be wrong on these, but that's the way it's looking right now.
Yeah, again, I know it shouldn't be a one issue thing, but it is vital to the existence of the human civilization. I know it sounds dramatic, but Bitcoin is that important, right? Like people have to
Yep.
understand that if you want to eventually have financial freedom going forward into this digital new era, you have to own some Bitcoin, right? It's not a
Correct.
if or like a but, it is a now, and get some quick.
Yep.
uh
That's the truth.
and and these are just facts, right? Again, they're going to keep printing money. I've been saying this since the summertime. The Fed's going to pivot. They're going to have to pivot. They printed these huge omnibus bills that are literally slated for more trillions of dollars, right? That one bill is $1 billion, and I've always said, I've studied this stuff for minutes. You tell you times three, and that's what they really spend. So they're going to spend somewhere between 2 and 2.25 trillion on that, just that one. When the money printers go back on, we already seen the Bank of England buying. They call them the guilds, but they're bonds. They're buying their bonds. They spend like almost, I think, $60 billion to $100 billion buying bonds, and they bought some last week. And they're going to be buying up other assets as well. And as they start doing that, the ECB is going to be tweaking their rates. I think Canada just tweaked their rates yesterday. And eventually, the central banks of the world are going to have to start protecting their books. And to do that, you're going to have to buy equities again. And they're already, like I said, they're already buying bonds. So
Yep.
to protect yourself, you buy some Bitcoin, you buy some gold, you buy some silver, you buy some Litecoin, you buy a cryptographic money you feel comfortable with that has a smaller supply than the US dollar. And that's like 60% of most cryptos.
Yeah, yeah, and when you look at these races and you look at the places where there really is a lot of toss-ups. I mean, you're looking at New York that has a lot of districts that are up for grabs: 1, 3, 4, 17, 18, 19, 22. Right? You're looking at
Yep,
Pennsylvania with
exactly.
7, 8, 17, and the Senate itself. When you start looking at it from that perspective, of course, like I said, California has the most by far. 9, 13, 22, 27, 45, 47, 49. So when we're looking at these three states, California, New York, and Pennsylvania, they could very well cause the shift of balance in Congress. And again, all of these states do not have people who are pro Bitcoin, and they don't even have people who work on legislation when it comes to Bitcoin. Believe it or not, only one of these candidates in the swing state is Georgia, and that's Ralph Warnock, Senator Warnock. Believe it or not, he is a co-sponsor of Senate Bill 3867. 3867, I'm going to see if I can pull it up real fast and tell you which one that is. It's the
Give
Digital
somebody else.
Asset Sanction Compliance Enhancement Act of 2022. So,
That one I
and
didn't review.
no, that's okay. I don't know if Nick could be able to pull up Cap Hill's crypto, and I'm going to pull up the legislative tracker right now myself and see if I
Cool.
can pull this up really fast. 3862. Da, da, da. I think I said 3862. 3867, sorry. So 3867 is the bill. And what I'm trying to get to is I want to read through that bill a little bit, at least get the preview for it. And that way everyone will have an idea. Yeah, so this particular bill, not a surprise, is actually sponsored by Elizabeth Warren. And here's what it says: it authorizes the president to sanction foreign crypto firms that are doing business with sanctioned Russian entities. It goes on and says, it authorizes the Secretary of Treasury to bar any digital asset transaction facilitators who conduct business with any Russian affiliates the secretary deems a national security threat. And then it defines the digital asset transaction facilitator as any person, group of persons that significantly or materially facilitates the purchase, sale, lending, borrowing, exchange, custody, holding, validation, or creation of digital assets on the account of others, including any communication protocol, decentralized financial technology, smart contracts, other software, including open source computer code. That says a lot. And what it's showing you is that they're trying to really shut down anybody that's dealing with Russia, or the sanctioned entities in Russia, put it that way. So Ralph Warnock is the only one in the competitive race that has co-sponsored something like that. And I guess I asked you this, Joel, do you see it as a bad thing for Congress to try to root out bad actors? Or do you believe with this technology, it should be all hands off and let everybody do what they want? And I don't know if he's able to hear me or not. Okay, he might have frozen. It looks like his video might be frozen. When he comes back, I will ask that question again of him. But it is one of the tricky spots in crypto because a lot of us, we look at this technology and we want the government to have their paws off of it. But at the same time, there's parts of us that want to ask the government to intervene when things go wrong. And so I think it's a tough place to be. It's a thin line to walk, to say, we don't want you guys to regulate this, but at the same time, if we get into trouble with this or it allows someone to do something malicious, that we want you to do something about it. So you sort of can't have your cake and eat it too. Now, I've mentioned this before on Bitcoin Politics that I try to walk that line. Listen, I think if it's clear, and this is where the problem is, how can you be for sure a person is involved with a bad actor in Russia? That's where the problem comes. If I think that is clear and it can be determined, then I think, yes, there should be some action taken. If it is not clear and you cannot be clear for some reason, then I think that there is a reason to take a pause on that. Average said, and I don't think the law should be a slippery slope that just because we let you do it for this instance, you don't get to do it for all instances, or you can't just arbitrarily switch and change. That's a dangerous precedent to have. And this is one of the things that we fear when it even comes to CBDCs, is that we're saying, yes, the technology itself is probably can be used in good or bad ways. It's in the good way, sure, no problem. But in the bad way, it's like, and it can go really bad. We have to be careful, incredibly careful. And so the people that we elect into Senate and into the House, we got to be careful. I think Gerald's back. Gerald, I don't know if you heard that question or not.
No, go ahead.
So what I was asking you was that this particular Digital Asset Sanction Compliance Enhancement Act 2022, that I think that, are you of the mindset that this technology should be all hands off, no regulation, or do you think there's room for regulation? And if so, how?
Okay, that's an amazingly awesome question. I tell people, yes, there needs to be some regulation, but they're starting on the wrong end of the spectrum, right? Let's censor everything. Censor, 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 censor. Well, that's your guidance. It should be. There's a couple countries, I forget who are pointing this out. I don't know if it's the UK, but we need to get the bad actors first, right? There's people that are literally, breaking these bridges, and that's the new place where the hackers go to. They find a bridge where you're taking the one crypto asset and moving it from the one protocol and moving it to another, and they're finding these loopholes, and they're basically running away with millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. But this is where you need to start. You literally you start with the bad actors, and we start with regulation and rules around crypto, like what's illegal, right? Like, I think double spend should be illegal. 51% attack should be illegal. These aren't anything discussed in any legislation I've heard yet. So until these kinds of things come up, I think you guys are I think there's like 20 different bills now. Most of them are just full of fancy words that mean nothing when it comes to Bitcoin or Litecoin or even Dogecoin, right? I've never had a Dogecoin transaction stop, but I had many dollar transactions stop. So I tell people, this is one of the reasons I'm a fan of Doge. Look at Elon Musk. He got his final wishes. He's walking into the headquarters of Twitter. He's getting his office. What do you think the currency of his new X application is going to be? It's going to be Dogecoin. Okay, this is a fact. And that's why he's positioned it, right? Like I thought about this the other night, I'm just laying in bed. It's like he did this because he wanted people to be able to utilize something that is in units of one, right? This is one of the big reasons America has problems with Bitcoin is because they aren't good with math and decimal points, right? Like most people don't understand, one Satoshi is 1/100th of a millionth of a Bitcoin, right? So that's
Hmm.
point zero, was it tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000ths, millionths, 10 millionths,
100 million.
100 millions, and that's a Satoshi. Americans, and I've said this to you before, I think that one of the big reasons that the West, specifically in North America, has a problem with its citizens and Bitcoin is because we don't have the metric system. You go to Europe, go to Africa, they get it because they understand decimal points a lot better than the West, specifically the United States. And this
Hmm.
is a major issue for convincing people. But when you look at it in and it's called unit bias, but when you look at it from the perspective of Doge and you're like, oh, I can buy like 500 Doge for like $180, whatever it is, on that day, you have
Hmm.
500 of something. It's not a sliver of something, but people don't realize that that sliver of Bitcoin will probably be a thousand times worth more than that Dogecoin, even though Dogecoin will be a currency that is used in the future. For how long, I can't say. But Bitcoin's probably going to be around for the next thousand.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. We're going to switch over to that 538 website to look at, again, those competitive races that Nick Silva has highlighted. And again, I keep trying to push 538 Nick to, or Nate, sorry, Nate, to look at Ohio 7. Ohio 7, a good friend of mine, Matthew Deemer, is running in that district. And that's being run against one of Trump's guys, Max Miller. I think Matthew is going to be incredibly competitive in that race. And I don't think that their metrics, the way that they look at the races, is identifying this yet. And this is one of those upset type of situations that I think could possibly happen. We'll look at the on the House side for the competitive races, all the way down to the bottom. It'll show you the ones that are competitive. But you will look at that race and you'll see that Ohio 7 is not there. And so what you'll find is that Matthew just picked up two sort of big endorsements, the Plain Dealer and the Cleveland.com. Both of
Nice.
these websites, both of these papers are large papers there in Cleveland, and they've now endorsed Matthew for office. So it's going to be tricky to see if these candidates can really pull this off, and if, in fact, and let me ask you this, Jared, do you think that we could see the Republicans win the Senate?
I mean, it's a tough call. It all comes down to the Pennsylvania race, I think. Most people,
Mhm.
if you're studying politics, you understand that. And I think, Oz as a candidate to me is a big joke, but he's very polished, right? He's been on TV
Mhm.
for many years. And
Mhm.
I've said we need to like put a law into Washington that if you've been a public figure in a high media profile, you shouldn't be allowed to run, right? Like this is just a fact, right? Like
Right.
you already command an audience, so whether he's a good guy or not, he's gonna pull some votes, away from John. I forget his last name. Just
Fetterman. Fetterman.
Fetterman. Thank you so much.
Yep.
And John
Mhm.
is the good guy, right? And don't let anyone
Mhm.
be fooled. John Fetterman has built that town that he was mayor of, right, for many years, and he built it up from nothing, right? Like literally, it was a hole in the ground town. And he showed time and time again he's the type of politician you want in Washington, right? That are going to do things for your people. And here comes Oz, who's another just, Trumpite. And he's a well polished Trumpite, but it's like we don't need more of those people. They're just like everyone thinks they're going to bring something good to the table, and they literally bring nothing but the table uh, to the table, but their ego and or their crowd of people that follows them.
Mhm. Yeah, no, you're right. That is going to be one of the places that I'll definitely be paying attention to. Yeah, Oz, he's got like 4 million Twitter followers, right? Compared to Fetterman's like 400,000. And I don't know if Twitter makes a difference or not, but Twitter is a platform that I think if they use it, we saw what happened 4 years ago.
Oh
Someone
yeah.
used Twitter on a massive scale, and I think it helped them out a lot.
Oh, it
So,
definitely did to get them where they wanted to be.
yeah,
But yeah, I think it comes down to Pennsylvania. I think if people are paying attention, they're not going to fall for the Oz move. I don't even think he's from Pennsylvania. Like it's a joke. It's a total
right.
sham.
Yeah.
So the one thing I did want to point out is I don't want to see this at the bottom. Like I mean, I know these states like Florida and Texas are predominantly conservative, but those are becoming the Bitcoin states. I don't want this to become a bipartisan issue, right? I want this to people to understand Bitcoin is for every American of all races, all creeds, all walks of life. Whether you have zero money in your bank account right now or you're a billionaire, it's made designed for everyone on the planet, and it can do that, right? That's why there's so many decimal points, y'all.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
works. It really does.
As a matter of fact, and I think you meant that you do want it to be bipartisan, not
Oh
partisan.
yeah, I want it to be
But yeah,
bipartisan. I don't want it to be a unilateral position. Sorry.
right, right. So I just gave Nick an article to pull up. This one came up in B in crypto. I think it was maybe yesterday or a couple days ago. But we're seeing broad bipartisan support in the upcoming midterm election when it comes to crypto. If you look at a lot of the legislation that's out there, it is truly bipartisan. Cap Hill Crypto, again, has done a phenomenal job at tracking all the legislation. If you guys haven't had a chance to take a look at his website, you should go there. He has a legislative tracker. I believe Nick has put it up on the screen a couple times, but it just goes to show you we're seeing both sides of the aisle look at it. And I'll just read you a couple of bullet points from this BN Crypto article. It says the US midterm elections are due to be held on November 8th. If you haven't voted early, guys, you probably should check it out and go vote early if you can, in which many candidates from both parties support cryptocurrencies. This has already been demonstrated by the bipartisan legislation that has been introduced regarding cryptocurrencies. And the growing influence of political action committees is also being shown for both Democrats and Republican candidates. And I don't know, Joe, if you've paid any attention to these PACs, but man, they've been coming out big time for these candidates.
I have not, but if there's, packs being, developed to, like I said, this is, I always don't want to sound dramatic, but Bitcoin is the future of everything. And,
Mhm.
Ethereum's right there too. But Bitcoin is always going to be number one, right? It's always the first thing. And it is the future of financial freedom. Like if you want financial freedom in this day and age, and you're not already, a seven figure or nine figure person in the world, there's no other way to do it, right? Unless you
Mhm.
have the next newest invention and you've got a prototype and it works and it, can do amazing things. There's probably only a few other ways to do it besides just buying some Bitcoin and waiting 10 years. And again, it's going to protect your butt because the more and more I look at what I'm seeing in the world today, we could have multiple, developed countries default. And at that
Mhm.
point, you want to have nothing to do with paper, money, anything, equities, bonds, uh, uh, FX, etc. You don't want to have anything to do with that. And the banks are starting to realize that. That's why all the bankers, like with the exception of Jamie Dimon, still lying to everyone, like, oh, we don't use that Bitcoin stuff. Yes, you do. Stop lying. Uh, like he lies to everyone. And he tries to sound smart in that committee hearing. Oh, we're doing this. Whoosh, whoosh. I'm like, dude, you sound like an idiot. Let's be very clear here.
Right.
You're not doing anything. You know who built JP Morgan coin? Yeah, Ethereum Foundation did because you guys failed. You went back to core. You went back to them and said, "Can you help us?" And they're like, "Sure, we'll help you." And that's who. That's why JP Morgan coin works, not because of JP Morgan's dev team, right? Let's be very
Right.
clear. Um, and that's why they like Ethereum too, because um, they see that they can create monies that are programmable money, right? Like
Hmm.
that's a big deal. Like this is why I always tell people, even though I use fiat coins, I'm not a big believer in them because they have huge problems in the digital realm, right? Dollars work in the real world really well. In the digital
Hmm.
world, they don't, right? When you're talking about input output, it's not the same as Bitcoin or Litecoin, right? Like literally, you want to move $1 million worth of Tether or USDC. Yeah, even after the merge, tell me how much that gas fee is.
Right,
And I'll
right.
tell
Yeah,
you,
and
it's a big number, right? And you can
it
move that
is.
same amount in Bitcoin, and it's a tenth of the cost. It's a tenth of a hundredth of the bandwidth, and literally, it just makes sense. And when you start to understand that those things are apples and oranges, like again, I don't know, and it's also problematic with taxes, right? Every time these traders, all US traders, most of them are, every time you go put $1 million worth of Tether, that's a taxable event. You go buy Bitcoin with it, taxable event. You sell the Bitcoin, taxable event. And that's a lot of taxable events. It's just better and smarter just to buy some Bitcoin and sit on it, or buy some Litecoin and sit on it. Like,
It
just
is,
saying.
and this is why I think Congress right now is grappling with a couple of issues. One is stable coins, and there's a lot of activity globally going on with stablecoin regulation, and the other side is that CBDCs. And the United States is grappling with the fact of, do we create a CBDC or not? We've got many congressmen in office right now. They've issued bills saying, no, we're not going to let this happen. We're not going to let the Fed create accounts for retail individuals. We're not going to let the establishment of CBDC come to light. And again, if these members win and they stay in office, that can probably continue to get pushed. On this other side, you got these stable coins. Will USDC become the digital dollar? Probably so. We're seeing a lot of traction with that right now. And I know, me and you've discussed that many,
Oh,
many
yeah.
times
At
about
length.
USDC, and it just keeps going, right?
Well, again, it's a the things that people like, again, it's a unit thing, right? It's one, one, one. People get one. It's a really simple number. Um, but like I've stated, like it just, I think USDC and Tether are good products, but we're at the next evolution of money, and people just don't grasp that yet, right? So this,
Right.
like, to me, fiat coins are just a crutch, right? People don't
Hmm.
realize because they have many problems. Like, oh, people used to say Bitcoin's a one trick pony. Wrong. You know who's the one trick pony? Tether's the one trick pony, right? And
Hmm.
it's, guess what? It's better than the paper dollar, but it's truly in the digital sphere, it's the one trick pony. And
Right.
again, I think right now, people are so taken by inflation that, again, a dollar digital currency makes sense to them, and the traders, it makes sense to them, right? But
Hmm.
as somebody, like I said, if you study the technology, it's just a digital crutch, right? Like,
Right.
and again, they're not just problematic, like I said, tax ways and in technological ways, but they're also problematic from oh geez, I just ran through my head. Stablecoins. Oh yeah,
Yep.
they're also problematic because, again, the bandwidth, right? Like, you're moving a million one single things through the web. Um, this is just, again, could you imagine in 20 years, like, we're just doing these enormous, like, Ethereum like transactions? It's like,
Hmm.
no, that's just ridiculous. Like, just use the base layer currency of that network. It's a lot
Right.
smarter. It's a lot easier. And and again, stable coins, the other problems, they're not stable. I don't care what
Right.
anybody says. They're 99 cents one day, they're 95 the next, they're a dollar for on Tuesday, and then they're
Right.
99 cents again. So they're not stable, and it's a way to make money.
But
But
while they're not stable, though, I think that the utility of them definitely will stay. I mean, if you look at the top 10 digital assets right now, you've got three stable coins there. You got
yes,
Tether, you got USDC, and you got Binance USD, which is starting to really move up the ranks. And I think it's at like position number 7 right now. So this article right here, BitPay, those guys are now starting to introduce USDC and ETH payments on Polygon's network, what I think a lot of people don't realize, and this is why I think Congress is trying to grapple with this, get their hands around it, these stable coins are going to be a force to be reckoned with. And
Oh,
they've
yeah.
got to figure out, how do we handle stable coins in society with money and banks and all these other things? It's getting incredibly challenging for them.
I'm of the opinion, if you are going to use them, just realize they're not censorship resistant, right?
Right.
USDC is not, Tether is not. That's why I don't have huge bags of them. I am going to start using them more because I want to create bigger bags of Bitcoin and some other products that I'm garnering right now.
Mhm.
But it's
But
one of
that was
those
the reason they
things.
were created, though. They were created
Yeah.
for that reason. If you remember when Tether first came into existence, because people had such a hard time going from their bank in cash over to one of these exchanges to buy Bitcoin or sell Bitcoin. You got to move it all the way back. It takes days to make it happen. Someone said, that's enough. We're going to create something that you can move in and out really fast. And if you look at high frequency traders, the big guys, you can't move hundreds of millions of billions of dollars in dollars across the financial system, but you can with digital, with stable coin, quote unquote,
with
stable
yeah
coins.
with Tether and USDC. And again,
Yeah.
that's the main reason why they were created. And don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, I they have their use case, but that's literally their only use case. And we've seen time and time again, from Luna to other
Hmm.
protocols, where their stable coin collapses, and it's part of the winter that we're in right now. It's not the only reason, because there was the Celsius issue and et cetera and blah 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 blah. But as I've been saying, I have been studying the hash rate chart of Bitcoin for almost 4 years now, and I
Hmm.
study the raw hash power chart, which looks very erratic. It almost looks like a polygraph test. It's like all over the place.
Hmm.
Um, but when we had the dip in June, I can map out when I think that the hash rate will recover. And it literally recovered in like 1/4 of the time it normally does. And if you saw that article from the other day, me and McGloin are pointing out that the hash rate to price ratio is like the best it's been since like 2020. He pointed that out. I'm just pointing out, it's like, look how high the hash rate is, and look at the discount on Bitcoin. And like I said, I can map it out. And I've been saying for months, November, 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 and you know this. And eventually, what happens is that even though the price is kind of being subdued by multiple financial tools now in the Bitcoin universe, eventually those things collapse very quickly, and we see these liquidations that cascade and that have happened over the last couple of years. I predicted that, I think it was like $1 billion Bitcoin short. I predicted that years before. I said these kind of things will happen, and you'll just see the price go
Hmm.
boom in the other direction. And that time
Hmm.
is coming again. And I've been saying for many months, is it going to be November 1st? I said, no, probably closer to the end of November. But the World Cup is coming, right? Everyone's seeing the ads. Everyone's even seen, if you've been watching baseball, thank you, Lord, the Phillies are in the World Series. Um, You've been seeing FTX ads on the umps, right? All the umps have these big FTX ads on them. So the ad campaign that I've been speaking about, they're coming again. So when you see the ad campaigns rolling out again, then
Yep.
it takes it like several months, but then the retail crowd starts to come back in, and you have to realize these are global products, and the
Yep.
dollar's been on a tear. And I've been
Yep.
following the DXY way before everyone else has been saying that the dollar is going to
Hmm.
harm all these markets. And you know this. I've been
Hmm.
saying, look out, this is very dangerous for the emerging markets. And then I even escalated that, said this could be dangerous for not just developing countries, but for second world countries. And that happened, right? We had the euro getting hammered, uh, the sterling pound having competition against the dollar, which is very dangerous for those
Hmm.
economies. And everyone's saying, oh, there's not going to be a problem. The US is bad. And yes, it might not be as bad in the US because we don't have those variable rate mortgages anymore. But guess
Right.
what? The UK
Hmm.
still does. And that's
Yeah,
not good.
you mentioned FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried. Again, looking at these packs, and I believe I gave Nick an article about these packs. We've got packs on both sides. One of the packs are definitely Democratic leaning. Sam Bankman-Fried is definitely one of them. Web3 Forward, there's another one that's over there. They've contributed a lot of money toward Democratic candidates. But then on the Republican side, we now are seeing the same thing. We're seeing this organization that's called, let me get their name, I think it's Club for Growth, David McIntosh. And he said this, which was very interesting. He said it's natural for Republicans, particularly the free market conservatives, to support Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Fits right in our wheelhouse. And again, I don't necessarily think that Bitcoin has one side or the other, but I mean, I think there is some truth to say that people that are more fiscally conservative tend to get Bitcoin a lot faster than others. But again,
Agreed.
you're seeing this bipartisanship on both sides. A lot of money is being poured into these candidates' campaigns to get them to Congress. We know that Web3 Forward supported a lot of candidates that didn't make it. I wonder if their money will be just for naught. Will it just go to waste?
I think you're going to see, I mean, we've been seeing that over the last 10 years, where we see tons of money go into these campaigns, dark money, PAC money, all this types of money. And I forget which candidate, I think it was California, maybe like 2 elections ago, where they dumped all this money and the guy lost. And you're just like, wow, like literally, do you know what we could do with that money? We could fix
A lot.
America, right? Again, I tell people, Bukele, as soon as Bitcoin crosses $71,000, President Bukele will look like an economic genius superhero, right? Doesn't
Absolutely.
doesn't have to hit 100K. It just has to hit
No.
$71,000, and even just for a day or two, right? And he looks like he might even win the Nobel Prize for economics if that happens, and he should.
Yeah, both him and Michael Saylor. The numbers come out right now. It looks like everybody's losing money. A16Z just reported losing a lot of money, all this other kind of stuff. People forget when this thing turns around, if these entities have not sold Bitcoins, i.e. Elon Musk, that still holds $218 million worth of Bitcoin, their books are going to look ridiculous, right? And people forget that.
Yeah, it's an inevitability. And like I was talking about the hash rate to discount price, like I crunched the numbers. Bitcoin should be like $95,000 to $110,000, right? Like this is the time, y'all. Like whether you're buying a couple bucks, like I'm just using Lolly right now. Every chance I get, open it up, stack, buy stuff, buy my gas, my groceries. And it's only, like 8,000 Satoshis here, 50 Satoshis here. But people don't realize that at some point in the next 10 or 20 years, hopefully I'll be around to see it. Amen. We will see dollar Satoshi parity, right? Because the dollar will collapse and Bitcoin will go into hyper Bitcoinization mode. And that could happen any day, right? Like people don't realize. Oh, we losing signal?
Nope, you're back.
Okay, you're good. All right. People don't realize, right? We've already got El Salvador. We already have like, I don't know, a handful of countries in South America. We have Tonga, right? Like they're literally, I think, a week away from them passing Bitcoin as a potential legal tender. It takes one developed country to get into that party, and like Saudi Arabia or Russia or China, and start taking oil for Bitcoin. And it's over. You're talking $10 million Bitcoin in a month, right? Maybe a year.
Yeah, you got good company with that, because it was Arthur Hayes, and I was going to try and see if I can find this, that said, it was just yesterday. I'm going to see if I can pull it up and give it to Nick. But Arthur Hayes said that the bull market will be back when China and Hong Kong loves crypto, right? And so what happened? Today, articles came out that said Hong Kong is going to make crypto trading legal, and another article came out that says China is still allowing people, crypto still legal there, right? What people have to understand is that, and if you listen to Mr. Wonderful, I know some people like him, some people hate him, but Mr. Wonderful has come on to several shows, and he is beating the drum now saying, listen, when we do get friendly regulation, right, that is going to open the gateway to the sovereign wealth funds that he's working with over in UAE. He's now become a UAE citizen. He knows what's going on over there, and he knows how much money they have. Billions upon billions of dollars are going to come flowing into crypto, and I think you're going to get a massive run up with that. So I don't even think it takes one of the small nations or a developed nation to accept it as legal tender. I think it's going to take people recognizing it is a safe haven, and when they dump the money in, here we go. That's just what I'm thinking. I could be right, I could be wrong. I think we might have lost you a little bit. But anyway, the point that I'm making is, again, that what Gerald has said and what I've seen in the news is that the sentiment is still baked in. Now, I also had conversations on Twitter. I've had conversations on my blog where people have commented. I understand that the broader economic picture is still in dire straits, right? If you listen to Jeff Ross, he talks about this all the time. He was like, guys, this is not over. This is going to get really, really bad. And so all of a sudden, we could very well see another pullback. I believe it was Alessio Rastani that said that we could see a run up until the end of the year, and then we could see another really hard pullback. He said if the corrective wave is an ABC, lights out, right? If it's a 5-wave corrective wave, then we could be off to the races. But it is going to be very tricky between now and the end of the year. You need to pay close attention. And not only for that purpose, but I think what happens in the midterm election can also have some impact, because the language and the sentiment coming from Congress and these politicians can set the tone, pace, and agenda for what happens regulatory wise. So we're in a very tricky space. It is prudent upon everybody to make sure you're paying attention on a regular basis, depending if you're a trader, if you're an investor. If you're an investor, just put the money in, walk away, shut it down. Don't listen to all this nonsense because it's crazy. If you're a trader, probably need to be paying attention, because if you're trying to trade this market, it is incredibly, incredibly tricky. Now, once Gerald come back, we'll talk some more about the overall industry, so to speak. But I do want to talk. I think he just came back. And he's gone again. Gotta love technology. So again, between 538 and my own spreadsheet, it is going to be interesting to watch the rest of these races. Something that I've been trying to do is reach out to these politicians to get their position on Bitcoin. And what I found is that a lot of them really won't get back to me or respond. Drew, I don't know if you've ever had really good success at talking to politicians about Bitcoin, or
I mean, I've tried on Twitter multitude of times. I've called Kate Brown's office, I want to say 6 or 7 times, written her multiple emails. So yes, I been lobbying for Bitcoin and crypto for probably 5 or 6 years now. I literally was ringing the alarm bell to Kate Brown, like, we need these products as citizens of Oregon to protect us from this collapse that's coming. And oh, look where we're at. Surprise. You know, I study these things, you know, almost religiously, and these prognostications I don't take lightly, and they almost always come to fruition. You know, I pride myself on kind of being like the new Michael Burry. I'm not a doctor, but I'm a smart guy, and I see patterns, right? I tell people I see patterns in almost everything. And that's what gives me the ability to make some of these amazing trades and calls. And then, you know, join my private Telegram group. I always tell people, I give out lots, you know, about cybersecurity, you know, what to do, what not to do, etc. And it's, you know, these are really simple things you can do to protect your crypto assets, protect your Bitcoin. And, you know, in most instances, when you hear these horrible stories of people losing their money, all they do is click a few buttons and they wouldn't have lost their money.
yeah.
in
Yeah,
most
yeah,
cases.
and hopefully Nick will, and I'll give it to Nick to link to your Telegram channel, because I think people should definitely tune in. And one, it's a lot of fun to listen to the way you talk and the way you tell the stories about what's going on. But the other one is very informative. Now, we were talking about these politicians. I'm gonna ask you a question, Gerald. Do
Mhm.
you think politicians should be able to buy Bitcoin? Because there is legislation pending or trying to move to Congress saying they can't. But do you think that's fair? Do you think they
I
should be
think
able
it's
to?
Yeah, I think it's totally ridiculous. It's just like saying, oh, that politicians shouldn't be allowed to buy gold or stocks, and yet they're the masters of, the captains of industry when it comes to equities. Like, look at Nancy Pelosi's portfolio; it's like one of the best in the world. And there's a couple of
Right.
Republicans as well, so it's both sides of the fence utilize these loopholes, let's call them, to make these amazing trades. So if they can do that, why can't politicians own, Bitcoin or Litecoin or
Yeah,
Ethereum, to try and ban those
of course.
things? And going back to the stablecoin thing, like, I think stablecoins, if we're going to use them, and I've said this for many years, they just should be decentralized and censorship resistant. And if
Correct.
they are,
Yep.
I'm cool. Thumbs up, double
Yep.
green thumbs up. I'll have some. I'll use it.
Yeah,
But
and this
I just
in
don't
this
hold back big
website,
bags of the other stuff.
yeah, and this website is from Jameson Lopp, and what he's done is he's looked at the existing politicians who are currently sitting in office, and he's tracked who owns Bitcoin or not. And if you guys get a chance, look at that website. You'll go through there, you'll see a lot of some of these people they do hold Bitcoin. Ted Cruz, for one, my senator, he definitely put some money into Bitcoin. He holds it. Some of them owns GBTC. Others haven't disclosed anything. So it is very interesting when you begin to look at who owns Bitcoin. And the great thing is Lops made it easy that if you were to click on Bitcoin owner, it would toggle it so that you see all the Bitcoin owners right up top. Right, there's only a handful of them: Ted Cruz, Cynthia Lummis, Michael McCaw, Barry Moore, Marie Newman, Patrick Toomey, and Jefferson Van Drew. So those are folks, and Michael Watts. They actually are the folks that actually own Bitcoin. So again, out of all the people that are in Congress, that's just a handful of them, not a lot. And my hope is that that will grow over time.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that that will happen. I mean, clearly, the most of the people that are in Congress, have investments. They're smart people. One of the smartest things I tell people you could ever do is read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he'll tell you why you should. The secret of rich people don't tell poor people, right? And you'll hear
Mhm.
this from rich people all the time. Uh, Poor people work for money, rich people make money work for them. And that's
Mhm.
what I learned from Robert Kiyosaki. And the second I understood that was in 2017 or 2018 when the markets were raring, and I bought a couple Litecoin. I think I bought one Litecoin at $99. And then I bought a couple more when it went to 150, and then it almost hit $400 in like a week. And I
Mhm.
realized, I was like, what? I was like, I just made like $1,200. What? I was like, this is the most amazing thing in the universe. And I already been playing with Bitcoin for like a year. And to see how quickly um, your money could just explode, it
Mhm.
just blew my mind. And then on my theories on how to like make money just all dissipated, right? Like, you don't have to think that way, right? You can make as much money as you want if you put your mind to it, right?
Mhm.
And that's the other thing that people don't realize who've been, middle class or lower middle class most of their life. If you really do, like I said earlier, if you really have an amazing service or amazing product and you put your mind behind it, you can make things happen and be your own boss. But crypto money, like I said, specifically Bitcoin, Litecoin, and these scarce assets, have made people millionaires in minutes, right? I almost closed on one of my best trades last year. It was kitty cake token. You can make fun of it, I don't care. But I almost turned
Hey.
$100 into $100,000 in 5 minutes. Yeah.
Wow.
So I tell people, unfortunately, on the exchange it was pumping on, I didn't have an account. It was a shady exchange, and I'm not going to set up, and put account info in there and do all that jazz and jump through it. By that time, the coin would have been gone anyway, and it did. But I tell people, uh, the cycle, right? Like, you can take a couple $100, a couple $1,000 and turn it into a couple $1 million. And you just have to be smart about it, right? It can't be your life savings, right? Like, that's the one thing that people
Mhm.
get in investing. They want to start taking their bill money and throwing it into that, bucket. And it's like, no, that's like the gambler's creed. You don't take your rent money and put it towards the bet, right? You never do that. And that's when people start getting lost, right? And they're like,
Yep.
and don't
Mm-hmm.
do that. Don't take out
Yeah.
loans for your Bitcoin and all that crazy stuff like Michael Saylor said to do. And then what Bitcoin do? It did this. So if you took out a loan when it was at 70K, now you're underwater, right? So don't,
Yep.
even Michael Saylor, who's a great guy, very smart, he was saying crazy stuff like that. And people like you and me were saying, no, don't listen to even Michael
Mm-hmm.
Saylor taking loans. He can because he's a billionaire.
Right.
Don't be, putting up mortgaging your house, remortgaging your house for some Bitcoin. Do it when it's at 20K, sure, not at
Right.
70K.
Yeah, not once it gets to the highs, you can. And that's what people have to realize is that, and this is what I tell people all the time. Listen, we all are going to have these thoughts about stuff. Listen, we're not financial advisors. We don't have financial advice, but people would listen to people on the internet say do stupid stuff, and they do those stupid stuff and they get burned by it. And then they want to blame somebody except for themselves. It's like, guys, you have nobody to blame but you. You did not have to take that. They didn't put a gun in your head. They didn't make you do anything. You listened to some idiot on the internet and decided to take your financial money, your hard-earned money, and do something with it. That's on you, boo. I'm sorry. That's
Yes,
just
I
ridiculous.
agree 1000%, right? These are the same people that wouldn't spit on a homeless person if they were on fire, right? But they'll give some guy 20 Ethereum in Bangladesh. Oh, okay, sure. Yeah, let me take
It's
investment advice from you, bro. No.
ludicrous, just
Like the
ludicrous.
other day, I think I posted up on the internet. I was getting calls about Bitcoin again. That's a very bullish indicator in my,
It is.
periphery of indicators. And she was like, "They say I have 1.3 Bitcoin." Scam. I was like 2 seconds in the conversation, she got mad at me. Like she didn't get like actually like verbally mad with me, but you could hear her pause. You could hear
Mm-hmm.
beep. She
Yep.
screeched her brakes and was like, "Wait, what? Like, listen a little bit." No, it's a scam. I'm telling you.
Scam.
There's, and I said, "What did they tell you they had to do to get it?" She's like, "Just give your Cash App or your bank account info and pay $60." I was like, "Oh yeah." So they're literally just going to get your Cash App info and steal $60 from you. Scam. And then she was like, she saw it. She literally saw the whole picture then. And I was like, I hate to tell you, I've been doing this for a long time. Like my friend in Philly, a couple years ago, she sends me an email and it was a Celsius scam, right? She sends me the email, like I think she screenshot the email and
Mm-hmm.
like sent it to me in 2 seconds. I'm like, scam. And she's like,
Mm-hmm.
"How did you figure that out so fast?" I was like, "Those aren't Celsius colors. The Celsius blue is like this royal, like almost Coinbase blue, and
Yep.
this is like got more purple in it." And she's like, "You're
Yep.
good."
Yeah. It's like when you're watching it all day, you see that kind of stuff, and this is what
Exactly.
people have
You
to
know it.
realize.
Like again, you've
Yeah.
got people. That's why you brought that out. Don't, we never ask for money. If I ask you for money, it will be to your face. What the heck is going on? Sorry. Did I just lose volume?
No, you still. I can still
Okay.
hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something just clicked. Oh, okay. My button
Okay.
got clicked in my chair.
Yeah. That's
Um.
okay.
Anyway. Yeah, we'll
Yeah. No.
never ask you for money. If I
No.
ever ask you for money, it's because you borrowed money from me, and I'm talking to you like, "Yo, I need that $1,000, bro." Right?
Exactly.
Like,
Right.
I'm never gonna say, "Give me Bitcoin online," unless you know it's a business or service that I've created and it's a legitimate company. But yeah, if we ever,
Yeah.
because you've got them now, I've got them now. I think everyone on the
Yep.
team's got these fake people. We'll never ask for crypto. We're not going to give you.
Never.
You're not going to give us point one, and we're going to give you 10 Bitcoin back. It's never going to happen, right? Like never in a million
Right.
years. So
Yeah.
stop thinking that's going to happen. It's not 2010 and there's no faucets that give out 5 Bitcoin every couple of hours. It doesn't happen anymore, right?
Right.
That was the past where you have
And
to
this is why
realize,
this is what yeah, I think this is why it's so important for again when it comes to regulation, when it comes to the things that the politicians can do, dealing with some of these tech companies, right? Putting guidelines in place where they help combat some of this stuff. Again, I've said it many times on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. These companies could do something about these fake accounts, these bot accounts. I'm hoping now that Elon Musk is going to take over Twitter, he'll shut down all the bot accounts. You can do it in a moment. I guarantee it a second. It's
oh,
not
yeah,
that hard to do.
Lunar Crush has technology, you boom, it's gone. Like they're gone in a week or two,
Right.
literally.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's the thing is, uh, you know, this is why Bitcoin is so important, right? People don't understand that the Web 2.0 is still like this duct taped mess, right? Like if
Hmm.
I showed you some of the stuff I see at my new job, your mind would be blown, right? They have
Yep.
literally 7 different systems for holding customer information.
Mm.
Sometimes I can't find a customer in literally every system because they've
Hmm.
created unique identifiers that aren't even recognized by any of these tools. Does that make any
Wow.
sense? No, doesn't
Wow.
make any
No.
sense. And I'm not going to give specifics because I don't want to get into proprietary information and get in
Yes.
trouble. But
Please don't.
um, that
Uh-oh, I think they rugged you because you're saying proprietary information already. I think Joel's sort of cut out there for a second. Let's see if he comes back. If he doesn't, I'm going to get ready and start wrapping the show up, by the way, because I've had you guys here for a little bit. But here's what I want you guys to know as we go toward the end of the show is that the midterms are here already. Some places can vote already. I've already voted. Please vote early. Vote soon, vote early. Understand who these people are. If you don't understand who all the candidates are that are running, please visit 538's website. They're going to have a lot of information on there and they can help you understand who's at least running. Now, when it comes to the crypto side of things, if you're trying to understand who supports and who doesn't, keep an eye on my website, follow my blogs. I'm going to have information out there. I will put together a blog post about these midterms coming up to help you make some of these decisions. Specifically, if you're going to be waiting to vote till November 8th, I will have information out there on all the candidates that are currently supporting Bitcoin. And I'm sorry, I'm only looking at Bitcoin. I don't care about all the other assets. Listen, I'm not a maxi, but right now the focus is on Bitcoin. So I will be outlining that information, folks, for you to take a look at. Again, I know some people are not one issue voters, and I applaud that because, listen, as much as I love Bitcoin, if a person loves Bitcoin, but they are all whacked out in every other area of life, I can't support you. I just can't. You can't say crazy stuff. You can't get in Congress and be combative. I'm looking for people who are willing to get in Congress and work with each other. Listen, it makes no sense to send someone to Congress who is just all about party and not about the people. If you're just there to support your party, I don't want to have no part of you. I support both Democrats. I both support Republicans. Dr. James Rogers here in Texas 30. I support him. I hope he wins. He's got a huge fight on his hand. That district's been blue for 30 years. And then you've got Matthew Deemer up in Ohio 7. I support him as well as some of the other folks too. But those two individuals I have a regular conversation with, and I'm hoping that both of them win and go to Congress. I believe that they will work with the other side. They won't be so party driven that it's all about just our view and everybody else can go to hell. I think that both of these guys are great. So if you are in Ohio 7 or Texas 30, please consider looking at their platform. Don't vote just because I told you to. Look at their platform, see if it works with you. If it does, vote for them. Same thing for every race. Guys, please do your homework on these candidates, understand where they stand. If they support digital assets, then I think you should be supporting them, specifically Bitcoin. But if they don't, hey, you know, let the chips fall where they may. But at the end of the day, supposedly we live in a democracy. The majority wins. That's the way it goes. Hey, Gerald, glad to have you back. I just think we're going
yeah,
to try and wrap it up here. But
no
any other
worries,
parting
no worries.
words?
Yeah. Apologize for the internet issues. I don't know why it's being
No
difficult
worries.
today.
It's tech.
It's, obviously we could be conspiratorial, but I don't think it has anything to do with that. But yeah, like literally, like I was stating earlier, the Web 2.0 has all these foibles and problems, right? Spyware, spamware, bots, bad actors, etc. And the Web 3.0 doesn't eliminate all of them, but it
Yeah.
does eliminate a lot of them, right? These people who run server farms and just kick out spam in the millions per hour, instead of them doing that, they take that same computational power and they put it into Bitcoin miners, and they're literally generating a real revenue stream versus, oh yeah, you're going to get one out of those 10 million people for what, $100. Yeah, you get one
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin, it's 20K. This is a
Yep.
really simple equation. This is why proof of work is important, because in mining is the first layer of this incentivization of this new universe that we're moving towards. And again, if you have 0 Bitcoin now, it's more dangerous to have zero Satoshis these days than it even was 2 years ago. So please
Exactly.
stack some sats.
Exactly. Where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter most of the time at GER313. And my Telegram link is under there for my private Telegram group. I keep it private for a reason because I want to protect your security in the group and my security, and has paid off for many moves. Oh, thank you very much. There it is right there. You can see the links. You can read my fun bio. Follow me because I want to
Exactly.
break out of Twitter's prison. Their queues, as I like to call them. They have secret queues, right? People call it ghost banning. It's not really ghost banning. It's queues, right? So they'll take you and they'll only show you to X amount of people, right? Or this
Mm-hmm.
crowd of people, or in their world, it's called a circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they take you and then they start to put up all these walls in front of all these other circles that you're friends with. And then when you post something, nobody sees it. And you're like, why is that? Oh, because they put up all these like kind of like little barriers around all
Right.
you and your friends and posts. But I'm pretty sure most of that's going to go bye-bye because now we have potentially a new owner in Elon Musk. And obviously, I agree that Twitter should censor certain things, but not the truth, right? And
Exactly.
it's a fine line, but they shouldn't censor the truth. I do think hate speech is not free speech. I've said this many times. If you studied law, there is no real true freedom of speech, right? We learn this time and
Mm-hmm.
time again in America
Mm-hmm.
when people are like, but that's freedom of speech. I know, again, Trump isn't the owner of Twitter, right? No, he broke the
Right.
rules. Bye bye. That's
Right.
how it works, right?
Right.
And that's people don't want to understand that fact, right? And that's one of the biggest foibles of the Web 2.0. You don't own your digital identity
Right.
in the Web 2.0, right? You don't, right? There was that
Right.
girl who had that Instagram handle that was Meta. And you know what Mark
Mm-hmm.
Zuckerberg did? He just stole it right out from underneath her and kicked her to the curb. And he didn't have
Yep.
anything to say about it and didn't think twice about it because that was his property, literally
Yep.
his property.
No, it's true.
Um,
It's true.
and that's the difference is do you want to be uh, an owner or do you want to be a renter? And
Yeah.
that's the difference between Web 2.0 and 3.0.
Yeah, and 3.0 is really, like you said, it's given us the ability to actually own our identity and our information. I'm hoping to see this really morph over the next, decade. And who knows, 10 years from now, things will look drastically different from all aspects of life. So, hey, I definitely appreciate you coming on. Thanks for
Thank you
showing
so
up,
much.
Nick. You've done a phenomenal job once again. This topic can be all over the place. But again, folks, I will end with this. Please, please, please pay attention to this election. I know a lot of you Bitcoiners don't like government and don't like to vote. Please go
Yeah.
vote
Yeah.
and make a
Vote.
difference. Yes.
Definitely. I
Cool.
agree.
All right. Thanks a lot.